Hey guys, I'm going to be just kind of going over a little bit of a progress update, I guess. It's been a bit since I've really kind of talked about, how the server is deeper in for me. This is kind of the gear that I'm showing off right now, though, and what I have to date. I guess I can start talking about some of the PvE content. The content itself is good. A lot of the dungeons, they run really well. There's no real issues there. I don't think I've come across a single bug in any of the dungeons at all. Well, actually, there is some visual bug when it comes to like when the dungeon resets versus when the actual daily reset is. It doesn't seem to be syncing up, but other than that, there's no actual like impairing bug that prevents you from actually, completing a dungeon. So that's good. The raid that I did with Karazhan last went really well. Did the whole entire raid besides Nightbane, and again there was no bugs, no weird scripting events, like nothing. The raid went really well, just as I remembered it on other servers where I played TBC back on Atlantis WoW and Excalibur. When it comes to like whether or not the server is a PvE or PvP server, it definitely is a PvE predominant server. You're not going to find a lot of people doing a PvP in terms of like actually for PvP, and I'll get to that a little later on what I mean by that, because that's going to be a big little disappointing event for me talking about PvP. But before that, there isn't much I can really say. I mean, about the raids, I've only done one. I can't say I've experienced any others because of Sunwell Plateau being released and ZA vendor. So two vendors open, Sunwell Plateau vendor and ZA extension to the original Badge of Justice vendor. You have a lot of options for gearing up. So people definitely do enjoy grinding heroics. Finding in a heroic dungeon is pretty easy. It does get pretty hard depending on, what role you play as and what time you're playing on. There's definitely a lot more people who are the healers or the tanks looking for groups than the other way around. Doesn't mean that it can't be done, but it's, just not very often that you'll see DPS looking for groups, just because, they're probably waiting for other people to, to host the group, and they can just quickly hop in, because it is harder, just statistically, for DPS to get into heroic dungeons than, being a primary role such as tank or healer. So my experience with heroics is definitely favorited, just because, the server isn't as populated. So finding, tanks and healers, good tanks and healers is hard. It's not very easy. So you can kind of just take advantage of the situation of the lower population and really get in runs very quickly. What's definitely lacking in the server is tanks. There's not a lot of tanks and not a lot of good ones either. So besides a select few, the server is definitely in need of more good tanks. That's probably the only real thing that I can say when it comes to trying to find groups and grouping up for heroics. Oh, and the fact that, bosses give 2 Badge of Justice instead of 1. So you can definitely gear up very quickly if you're grinding every day all week. You can get Sunwell Plateau gear, Sunwell Plateau badge gear, just by grinding heroics all week. Like it's that easy. So if you are able to put in the time, you can definitely get the badges you need to get any pieces that you are wanting to upgrade. Another thing I want to mention too, the server recommends that you can try and play 2.5.2 client of TBC on their realm, just because it's more optimized. Doesn't have some of the same issues that maybe 2.4.3 client has. Problem is a lot of add-on configuration and trying to chase which add-ons work for the client, because all the add-ons mostly that work for 2.4.3 do not work for the recommended 2.5.2 client. Yeah, maybe it's a little optimized better. Maybe the quality is a little better. Like, just, I don't know. Maybe the textures are better on the client, and you have like more quality of life things, like with, oh, like doing windowed mode and like multi-monitor setup. Like there might be some more quality of life changes with the client, but 2.4.3 is a classic client. There's a lot of add-ons that work for it. It's just I got really annoyed constantly trying to figure out which add-ons work with the client. You have to dig on Discord to try and find their list of add-ons that work, and some of them don't even work and some of them do, so there's like inconsistencies there. Just trying to set up your add-ons on a fresh realm is extremely annoying. I didn't get my add-ons right until I got to level 70, and I ended up just going back to the 2.4.3 client. I was not happy with 2.5.2. I don't think that they should recommend it, honestly, on their website. I just feel like there's just too many hoops trying to figure out what works with the client. And even with their list and their help and trying to get people set up with add-ons, you got to dig on their Discord. Maybe some people don't want to have to do that. It's just the nature of a newer client being made, and there seems to be a decent people who refuse to switch to 2.5.2. There's plenty of people on the server who are just playing on the old client, and I also switched back too. I literally switched clients all because of I wanted more access to certain add-ons that I couldn't have on 2.5.2. That's was another disappointing thing. It's just the add-on limitation. And also there seems to be a pally power issue. So for fellow paladins, there's for some reason the pally power add-on does not work between the two clients. They will connect, but they just don't. What one client sees when you're trying to set buffs, the other one doesn't. So there's a discrepancy with the pally power. That doesn't work. So there's already like a connection issue between 2.4.3 players and 2.5.2 players for paladins. And of course, I have to be the class that this gets affected by. But it's just the lack of add-ons, and the lack of add-ons that are made for the client, and the ones that are, you get used to on the older one. So I went back to 2.4.3, and I recommend most people to kind of stay 2.4.3 unless you don't care about a lot of the add-ons. But I enjoy the old school client. Now, kind of moving on to PvP. I'll be honest, I haven't joined a single PvP match. The reason being, I am not happy at all with the PvP situation on this server. There aren't really any battlegrounds that happen, and if they do, I can guarantee you that they are not hitting, the 15 team member limit per side. So like Alliance and Horde, there is not 15. Actually, I don't know if it's cross PvP too. I know it's cross faction, but I don't know if it's cross PvP. But either way, I know on either side of the PvP match, there is not a 15 Horde and 15 Alliance players. I can tell you that right now. And if there is, that has to be like a really lucky match on a really high peak day. I never see the PvP battleground announcer go off, because on the system messages you can see if a battleground has started. Maybe here and there you might see, oh, Warson Gulch is starting or something like that. But I've never seen an Arathi Highlands starting. I've never seen Eye of the Storm. I've never seen Alterac Valley. Like, genuinely, I have not seen an Alterac Valley pop. And it's not going to happen on this server. I'm sure they did it maybe once or back on launch when, you know, maybe like 5-6 months ago. I'm sure they were doing Alterac Valley. They're not doing it anymore. I can tell you, I haven't seen that Battleground pop at all. And when it comes to arena gear and PvP gear, there is no rating requirement for arena gear specifically. Like season 4, season 3, there's no arena requirement for it at all. So what ends up happening is that people just farm arena ratings and they use that to benefit their PvE runs. I'm sure there are a few PvPers on here who genuinely farm the arena points just to do PvP on here. I don't think there's that many though. And in my opinion, other than just being able to brag that you have a high rating on the server, at this point in the at this point in the realm, I do not see you know, any reason to want to actually do PvP. You don't need to earn anything. Season 4 gear is completely no requirement needed. All you have to do is just do your weekly arena 10 matches and that's it. You know, I've seen a lot of people with, you know, full S4 gear, and you know, I don't take that very seriously at all. I don't care for it. I don't see it being earned. And you know, I'm coming from a place where like PvP was its own thing. It didn't often get crossed over into PvE content, but because there's no arena requirement and people don't actually have to be good to get the gear, people are taking advantage of some PvP pieces that might benefit them or might be considered pre-best in slot before Sunwell. They're taking advantage of that and just doing their weekly arena matches solely just to get, you know, a PvE boost. I dislike it. It's not the traditional way, and it's not a way that I care for. I very much dislike that. I'm a big PvPer kind of guy. Before I even started ever doing any PvE content, I was a PvPer. I still would be to this day, but very disappointing that PvP is it's just dead. It's dead on this realm. It doesn't exist. Not in the way that most PvPers would hope. It really is only another option for PvE players to get gear for a rating. That's literally all it is. And bragging rights for having a high team. And that's not including the constant win trading reports that happen on this realm. There's a lot of win traders just trying to get high rating. The only piece of gear that does have an arena rating requirement are the S4 shoulders. I think it's like 2200 rating for the S4 brutal shoulders. That seems to be the only requirement. And the thing is, those shoulders are not pre-bis for PvE. So if people are getting those shoulders, they're win trading for them. But I'm not going to cry anymore about PvP. You know, it just seems like nowadays on most servers, if the realm's been out for a good while and the population gets too low, people aren't doing PvP in the way that you would hope. Now, to talk about the economy of the server, kind of going over the auction house a little bit, you can kind of see there is a huge just bump between the prices of things in even the same items. A lot of miscellaneous, just random stuff going from the highest auction to the lowest. Like, there's just a lot of people who don't know how to price things. There was like arcane tomes. 16 of them were 255 gold, and then right next to it 10 of them is 479 gold. So people clearly don't know how to price anything on this server. There's like lower level gear that people are charging like 50 gold for. There's like level 30 gear that people are charging 20 gold for. Like, people do not know how to price anything on this server. The economy is really bad. There's level 70 gear that's cheaper than level 20 gear. And the thing is, people are not twinking on this server. They're not twinking. PvP is not really a thing here. It's just, I don't understand why people are pricing the way they are. I try to think of maybe a reason why, but it definitely is just because people don't know how to price anything. There's a Mark of Sargeras on the auction house. For 99 Mark of Sargeras on the auction house, Someone's charging 400 gold for that. That is ridiculous. Who's charging 400 gold for Mark of the Sargeras for 99? And then someone's charging it for 200 for like 60. It's just like, I don't understand where these prices are coming from. Arcane tomes, fell armaments. Some people are selling fell armaments for like almost 100 gold a piece. To be honest, 100 gold, even that still seems kind of high. 50 gold seems more reasonable for fell armaments than 100. Like trying to think back on like other servers that I played on where, you know, trying to compare the economy. Even when Excalibur had a super low population, you know, patterns, recipes, reputation item drops, stuff like that. Oh, they were not that expensive. Well, not at all. Sometimes I've seen it at 30 gold a piece in Excalibur. On this server, it's like 3 times the amount. And they're like around the same population when Excalibur was last alive. So it's just like where the economy's not good at all. Good luck trying to get anything. Dark rune drops are horrible, so that means the price of those are super high. Dark runes. Super mana pots are like, I think last I looked, for a stack of 5 each, I think it was like 60, 70 gold for a stack of 5. I could be wrong, but that was the last time that they were priced at. There's just not enough people farming for these materials, and finding a fair price for them, I think people are genuinely pricing things based off of the time that they feel like took them to get it. And perhaps maybe nowadays a lot of people don't have a lot of time, so now their time is valued way more than it was before. So they just charge that, you know, they feel like, oh, I barely have time as it is, and I took 3 hours to farm this, so I'm just going to charge more because of my limited time already. I feel like that's a kind of an unspoken thing when it comes to the economy too, that real life time that people put into stuff can affect what happens inside the game. Like just the way that we perceive time has changed than it did 10 years ago. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, people felt like they had more time, so maybe they weren't so harsh on the prices. But now I'm sure everyone feels like they don't have time for anything. So that perception of time could have a slight impact on the economy. Just kind of a thought, just something to think about when it comes to why maybe the prices are so high. But that's just kind of a theory that I have. But I think the biggest issue on why it's so bad is just the fact that there's not a lot of people on the server. There's not enough low levels farming Azeroth materials, and there's not enough levelers even in the 60 to 70 range farming enough Outland materials. So you have a bunch of 70s trying to farm for these materials, and then they're selling them. So it could also be that too, you know, 70s who are farming materials might charge things more than the people who are leveling. People who are leveling aren't going to be so harsh on these materials when they sell it, because they're leveling. They're forced to grind. They're forced to farm experience. So I think they're a lot simpler with the prices. They kind of just they aren't aiming for such a high bid. They just, you know, they probably just need gold, so they got to get gold fast, so they sell it fast. At least that's what I would do. But yeah, moving on to the stability of the server. I haven't had too many issues. Actually, during my recording for just showing off on this video, you know, some gear, some runs during my commentary, I was actually having some DC issues. I was just disconnecting from the server randomly, like 3 times, and a few other people were disconnecting as well. I don't know if it's a host issue, but not everyone was disconnecting, but like there was like maybe half the people online were, or at least that's what it seemed so. But you know, for the most part, there's no issues for stability on the server. I don't have any weird crashes, no real internet issues, but that would be more of my issue, not the server. But no host issues really. Yeah, it's just a solid running core. Like there's nothing really too wrong with the server that I could think of to bring up. I don't even have an interest in going to Azeroth unless I need to go see the auction house. I'm so disappointed with the lack of levelers. There's probably more Outland players than there are Azeroth players. Leveling is quite boring. Boring if you like playing with other people. But it's still though, like that's kind of the point of, you know, old school Warcraft, is that you team up with other people. The quests are designed that way. They're designed for you to get help from other players. So just, even though I kind of already talked about how I felt with the leveling on some of my older videos, just because this is a progress update and just, you know, I've spent more time on here to really understand where the server is at. Leveling is pretty disappointing in terms of player interactivity. Just general population stuff too. The realm can get really quiet during NA times. It can get really bad, especially if you're kind of like a second shift worker like me during, you know, NA times, like getting online at like 11, 12, 1 in the morning. That is really dead. The server is like under 200 people. It's very hard to get groups going. It's possible, but very hard. I can thank some of the people from my guild who were online and actually willing to run some dungeons too back when I really needed to gear up. I got lucky that they were online as well, because the server time is about 6 hours from me. So, and I'm just being completely transparent with how the realm is doing at the current state and going into the new year. Things may or may not change for the better or for worse when TBC Classic re-release comes out again. It's going to be kind of concerning, you know, by the time that releases. I'm just not sure what's going to happen to this realm when that releases. Maybe it could bring back more people who want to do TBC, but they don't want to play Classic, so they hop in on this realm. You never know. People can be funny like that. That's something I would do. So just waiting to see what happens when Classic comes out, and you know what's going to happen to this realm. I hope that it doesn't die. I don't want to see this realm die. I have a good time playing on this realm, despite some of its shortcomings with the population and economy and, you know, lack of PvP. If I had to say my biggest disappointment with this realm, if I really had to pick one, it would have to be the PvP. The PvP is being used as a vendor option for PvEers. I don't like that. There's no respect there for PvP on this realm anymore. There's no respect. It's just basically AFK, you know, 10 match farm every week. There's no skill there. There's nothing respectable about it. I don't care when I see people wearing any kind of PvP gear. I literally do not care. I remember when I saw someone in season 4 gear on other TBC servers where, you know, the gear required arena rating. I remember feeling like, oh my god, they're so good. Like, damn, they you know, they really earn that gear. Just as you would react to a raider wearing full T6 Sunwell Plateau gear. That feeling, that like, damn, like you're geared as hell, man. I don't get that feeling with people who are in S4 gear, because I know probably 95% of them did not really earn this gear. There's no arena rating, not even for the weapons. It's just the shoulder. I see so many people with the S4 weapons now. I just don't care. And whether people want to admit it or not, yes, World of Warcraft is always kind of aimed to be a PvE game because it is a mass multiplayer online RPG game. But I think WoW still tries to show deep seriousness and appreciation for the other side, PvP. Can't have, you know, it's both sides of the same coin. Like, you can't have one without the other. Like, it just, the server can feel kind of hollow if there's no PvP going on. Even though everyone likes PvE, it's just the fact that other people are doing PvP that makes the realm feel alive. That's where it comes from. Whether or not people care to do it, or they don't care to do PvP. It's just the fact that because it's not happening, it doesn't feel alive. It's a different kind of feeling. But yeah, PvP not existing the way that I had hoped it would on this realm is disappointing to me. All the people on the world chat looking for 2v2s, 3v3s, they're only looking for it just so they can get their weekly in. Most of them. I'm not saying all of them, but most of them are. And it's just like, I do not care. I want to get my gear in PV, the non-PvP way. I think it's a cheap, in my opinion, I think it's a cheap way to get gear. It's a cheap way to get the pieces of gear that you like and that your class might need. But at the same time, I don't blame people for utilizing it, because it is true. Some of those pieces of gear are genuinely best in slot before Sunwell. I get it. I understand. It's just the fact that I wish there was some kind of better requirement for it. Not being used so easily, like just an easy vendor. It's another vendor. I don't like that. It's an open vendor with no requirement. It's no different than farming badges. If anything, I think it's worse than farming badges, because at least you still have to put effort in doing the dungeon to get the badges. You don't put any effort in doing 2v2 arena, throwing the match just so you can get the 10 games in. That's no effort to me. That's why I don't like it. There's just no effort. There's no requirement. At least there's some effort when you're farming badges. But yeah, that's just kind of my spiel, kind of where I'm at right now with the realm. But I know maybe a good chunk of it kind of seemed like negative things, but I am having a fun time on this realm, and I'm not trying to bring it down. It's just, the nature of how TBC servers do nowadays, and just the lack of people trying to play, and the fact that people are so quick to just leave the server when they get to, clear all the raids. Their guild gets to do everything they wanted to do. You see like a 70% population drop off just because they got to clear everything. And it's just like, it sucks that people don't want to stick around longer, and that the few people who may not be so up to date with what's happening in the MMORPG community and private server community, we end up coming in with the leftovers. Like, that's all we get is the leftovers. Like, we get what we get. We weren't here at peak. We weren't here when things were really booming, and that's just kind of just how it is. Some leftovers are better than others, but like when you try to eat food, it's like, well, it's not as good as it was last time, but it's still good enough. That's kind of how leftovers feel, and then with food, and that's how it feels with realms and servers. It's like, well, you weren't as good at peak. You kind of been sitting a while, and I had to microwave you, but you taste okay now. But the best way I can put it in comparison, and it keeps you fed, but it doesn't satisfy you. If that makes sense. It keeps you fed for what you're looking for, but it doesn't satisfy you, and that's not the server's fault. That's just the nature of how things are now with private servers in World of Warcraft. But those are just kind of how I'm doing right now, and just kind of where I'm at, and gear wise, my opinion wise, and just everything wise. It's just kind of where I'm at with the realm. I might look into their other realms on Stormforge, like Frostmourne. I think that's their newest realm. I think they're on Ulduar. I believe they're I think just season 7, or right tier 7. I think that's the first tier for Wrath of the Lich King. I could be wrong though, but I believe that is a new realm. But I don't know. They kind of switched a lot of stuff up. But it's kind of a uniqueness to that realm's different. They kind of consider it to be like a Wrath of the Lich King plus. It's like an extension, so which is kind of cool. So I may or may not, on the offside, go and level over there. Maybe might make a very small series over there. Who knows? I don't think they're probably going to do another fresh realm again for a good while. This would definitely not be the time to try and, do a refresh because of TBC Classic. So I think Netherwing is going to last a good while into this year. I could be wrong. They might even, they might have a different idea for what they're going to do with Netherwing, but right now with Sunwell Plateau just coming out like a few months ago, I think the realm will be okay until then. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and maybe got some insight from my progress update for Netherwing. But yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.